Welcome back to the podcast. So, I want to do something a little bit different. I'm kind of thinking about it. So, I already know I cannot post every single day if I'm going to post longer form content. And it is kind of difficult to come up with multiple short, just random topics. Especially when it's related to side hustles, money, things like that. Like, I could talk about what I'm actually doing, but sometimes I'd rather put that energy into what I'm actually doing rather than talking it through. So I don't mind talking through what I've done. But I don't really like putting energy into talking about things I haven't finished yet. Because I feel like it takes away time and energy from actually doing things. So, today, I do want to talk about, kind of like online marketing. So I want to talk about something that is maybe just general social media marketing. Actually, okay. So I'll talk about the social media marketing in this episode, but I also want to get into like talking about not just social media marketing, but just like maybe side hustle hang-ups in general. So and I'll divide this into 2 episodes. So on this podcast, those of you who have tuned in before, that we discuss side hustles, finance, the economy, just kind of anything within that realm. Lately I'm going to be talking a lot more about side hustles, and the reason why is because my own personal experience and belief is that while the competition is more fierce near this time of year, usually Halloween time marks the period of time for myself when I usually will start to engage in more finance-related projects. So when I just say general finance-related, that can mean anything from, my own investments personally, or, some type of side hustle or project or campaign that has a return on investment of some sort. Just anything making money, any type of streams of income. Now, this time of year, I start noticing that it's easier to have holiday sales. So you can do like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Halloween, fall sales, winter sales, all types of things like that. So, and it is a very consumeristic time of year for a lot of people. A time of year where people travel a lot. A time of year where people start thinking about what they didn't do during this whole year, say for 2022, for example, and then coming into 2023, people starting to think of resolutions and goals around this time of year. So it is it's a time of year with a lot of change attached to it, and also a lot of financial trends that you don't see throughout the rest of the year, you start seeing people being more willing to spend, impulse buy, get into some cute little trend for the holidays. Easy examples of this, people, I don't want to say people start bundling up. My gosh. Of course, there's always the street racing to deal with on the on the highway. I was gonna say people start bundling up, wearing different like multi-layer clothing and like warmer clothing, but it's just because of the climate. The reason why I was about to say that in a weird way is because where I live, it's not really a necessity too much unless you're regularly going to be exposed outdoors. Like, you can kind of get away with wearing shorts and a hoodie. That's kind of what I wear this time of year. I might throw on a long sleeve button down or, a hoodie at most. And it's very rare, unless the weather gets down into the 50s and 40s. As long as we're in the 60s and up, I'm usually going to be wearing shorts. I might put on a sweater or something. But yeah, people's clothing styles change. So there's like seasonal clothing, that people start breaking out, like the slippers, the blankets, the earmuffs, the beanies, the gloves, all sorts of things, as well as buying gifts and presents and things for other people, as well as, making parties and things like that. So, in my opinion, it becomes a good time of year to sell. Now, people don't usually want to buy used stuff for a gift for people. They want something new. But if you have stuff that you still have the original boxes for, and I'm telling you, like, I'm a pro at this. A lot of times when I buy something, I've mentioned it time and time again, I will keep the original packaging, keep the original boxing. Even if I open something, if it costs me more than like $20-$30, usually I'm keeping the original box and packaging, because the second I decide I don't want that thing anymore, if it's within 30 days, it's going back. Or if I realize it doesn't work as well as what I had planned, it's going back. I return it for the money. Or when I realize I'm done with it, and if it's still looking new and still something that could be of value to someone else, I will sell that thing. Whatever that may be. And so that's just something to keep in mind. One way of just saving money is if you know that you buy a lot of stuff, especially on like Amazon Prime or whatever, where they make it easy for you to return stuff. Especially if it's on Amazon Prime or whatever. Just keeping the stuff that you purchased, keeping the boxing, and returning it. Or when you're done with it, treat it well. And when you're done with it, give it away, resell it, for even half the price, But, so when we talk about social media marketing, that can mean anything from, old school, like Craigslist, eBay, to, I think even Facebook/Meta, that's kind of old school-ish. I've talked about OfferUp, Let's Go, Instagram. Now TikTok. There are places where you can post ads. And so if you're, common time, nowadays, it's popular to have a drop shipping store, single product. I can tell you what I like to do is make a drop shipping niche store, but with one product on it, with a video ad, and then pay for ads It depends how much you want to spend on ads. Definitely keeping track of all your expenses. So an example would be, I don't know, if I was going to sell tea, for example, or hot beverages, for example. And if I didn't know between cacao and coffee and tea, what would be the best for me, I might do something along the lines of making a website around, hot drinks, hot morning drinks, all the wording and everything. I could change that, but the domain name, the email address, the company name, the store name, everything would be, I don't know, like hotdrinks.com or something. I don't know, like, for example. And so it would be within the niche, but the store would maybe only have one type of coffee. Then I'm getting cheaper somewhere and reselling for a profit on another end, and marketing this as, having time for marketing, having the expenses for, the domain, the Shopify website, if I'm paying someone to make advertisements, paying for the actual products up front or what, and then drop shipping the items. And once the items are, advertised, and hopefully the payment for advertisement. So if you think TikTok can be about $30 for an ad, depending the type that you get. Facebook used to be cheap. It's kind of more now. You can do your own marketing too. There are methods of, I don't know how to explain this. There are methods of marketing things to leads, generating your own leads. You can search through, you would think, basically you need to know who is your potential buyer. So say if it's, coming up on finals, for example, and you wanted to target a specific region in your area. This is very small scale thinking, but if you wanted to target a specific region in your area, like colleges, universities, and high schools in your area, where people might be drinking caffeinated hot beverages because of the cold time of year and because finals are coming up, and you want an affordable coffee that's not Starbucks, that's not something popular that people can get, that ships quick, that people can get the next day or something, but you don't know if it's coffee, tea, or cacao or what. You can still test different products on the same site with different ads for the different products, and see which ones do better, and then take the ones off that don't do well, and the one that does the best, keep that one. You can basically look for email addresses, phone numbers it's hard for individual people, but when you think companies, groups, clubs, they might have LinkedIn profiles, they might have Facebook profiles, Facebook groups. You can basically kind of go through the web, find people you would want to advertise specifically to, create a list of targeted groups that you're going to target these ads towards, and send the ads directly to them. That's one method of doing it. Another method is just send it generally, just make a TikTok account and just, put your ads on there, and just anybody who sees it on TikTok, as long as they're from the US or whatever, can purchase your item. And you're not even marketing to a specific person, but definitely, if it's possible, to capture email addresses through your website, and capture, subscriptions, and capture, if you can make like a subscription type of thing, there are just a lot of different ideas you can do with marketing. nowadays that, you can test out a lot of stuff. The issue is, you don't want to spend more money than you're making. So keeping track of that. And then another issue is, if you're doing something seasonal or something very niche, even if the population is very niche, like if you start narrowing down to local colleges and universities to where you can get them the items the fastest because they're in your same neighborhood, if you start narrowing that way, the issue might become I guess the issue would be if you're not marketing to people right away, or those kind of seasonal things, your numbers might change as the season changes, as people go on vacations and are no longer in school, therefore not needing your caffeinated beverages. It might change, or if it's something that not all age ranges can get into, like caffeine isn't for like all age ranges, or just online shopping in general is like an age range thing. You can't just be buying stuff if you're like 12. Technically I guess you can if you're online with a credit card that's somebody's allowing you to use, but technically you kind of can't. So just keeping that kind of stuff in mind. Yeah. And so that's kind of one way of thinking about things. I know it's very, 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 very general, but those are different methods that might take time. But if you can go the route from anywhere from starting completely from scratch and trying to find actual direct, populations that you're trying to target, all the way to, targeted groups. eBay is probably the easiest place to just target any old body who just happens to search for your item. Of course you have to have a competitive price, but sometimes if your shipping is faster, you might have the better deal. Even if it costs a couple bucks more, people might be willing to pay an extra $10 for an item that's like $50. Like yours, if it's $50 versus someone else charging $40 for it, you might get more customers if yours is $50 but ships same day versus if theirs ships within 7 days. Sometimes the speed is worth the money for more people. And not only speed, cost to you, cost of time. It can take a lot of patience. The interesting thing with drop shipping, though, is that you're not paying for the product up front. So other than paying for the expenses, and and I would recommend using something like a Novo business card, debit account or something to keep all your expenses on one financial place, so that if you do develop an LLC, or if you have like an S corp or something later on, those numbers are easier to track for all your marketing expenses and everything. You can get a lot of tax write-offs versus like combining it with all your other money. You can still write it off, I guess, but it's easier to just write it off of a different account, one specific account. So that's one way of just kind of looking at things. And let's see. that's just one way of looking at things. And so that's definitely something that can be done. It's definitely something that people can take into consideration to do. And it's really not that complex. I mean, it can be, but it's really not that complicated, to make the stores, start the stores and everything. Most of us who grew up kind of using the computer can make these shops and stuff without really having to know a whole lot. Or you can just pay somebody on Upwork or Fiverr or something like that to do it for you. But, it is good to kind of keep it basic and not go too deep into the deep end without, tracking how much money you might lose. Like, if you're willing to lose the $15 or so and then maybe $30, so if you're willing to lose about $45 over the course of about a month, just for the sites being set up, and then say if you run 10 ads for $30, for $300, or 300, well, with tax, over $330. So it's like 330 plus 45, like about $375. That's about how much you're losing, just for one run at $300 worth of ads. Are you making that money back? You want to make sure that the return on investment, at least is, your first return on investment should be over that $375 that you initially spent to open the store, get the domain, and send out the ads. You'd have to make for sure that the money adds up. So if you take $375, and I don't know what you're selling, but say if your item costs, I don't know, let's keep it easy. Let's say that your item costs $10, then you need to sell over 37 items at a profit. Like, say if you're going to make $10 profit, let's put it that way. Say if you're going to make $10 profit off of every item, then you need to sell over 37 to make your money back in that, if you say the first month, in the first month. Now, that's not counting if you have a 30-day money back guarantee or return policy or anything like that. But yeah, just the return on investment, just to make over, you'd have to already have that, and then you'd already have to spend. So if every month your expenses are going to be $330, then you have to sell over 33 items monthly. If the money you make is going to be $30 profit, then that puts you to selling over over 17 items. So by the 18th item, you're making a profit. And if it's every month, then you have to sell at least 3 to 4 items. 13 of, yeah? At least 13, oh my gosh, the gardeners. At least 13 items or so. 13 items to maybe 10, I don't know. about 10 to 13 items or so, just to be barely making a profit. So if you think about it, is the item you're selling probably going to sell that much? I mean, it's hard to tell without actually doing the project. This time of year can be beneficial for that, though, because people are always online anyways. They have more time off than usual, and they're usually buying things. Think about things that people can use for gifts for other people. If you're not thinking of like a school niche or like a certain niche like that, gifts that people can buy for others. So yeah, that's kind of all I really have to say at this very moment. This went on a lot longer than I had intended, but hopefully that's helpful, and thanks for listening.